Los Angeles, a city of dreams, glittering under a blanket of stars. From up here, it looks peaceful, almost serene. But down there, tucked away in the heart of old Hollywood, stands a hotel with a history as deep and dark as the night itself. Some hotels keep memories, but some never let them leave. This is the story of one such place where the past isn't just remembered. It's relived, night after night. Our story begins with Alex, a travel vlogger always searching for the next big adventure, the next untold story. He'd heard the rumors, the whispers about the historic Blackwood Hotel. Intrigued, he decided to see for himself, booking a room that was infamous among the staff and locals, room 928. As he approached the grand, slightly faded front desk, the air grew heavy, thick with the scent of dust and old perfume. "Checking in," he said with a confident smile, sliding his ID across the polished marble. The receptionist, an older woman with eyes that seemed to hold a century of secrets, took his card. Her gaze lingered on his reservation. "Room 928, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. She looked up at him, a flicker of something unreadable pity, warning, in her eyes before she forced a thin smile. "Enjoy your stay, sir." She handed him a heavy, ornate brass key, its tines worn smooth by countless hands. The elevator ride up felt strangely long, the gentle hum of the machinery like a low, mournful song. The hallway on the 9th floor was quiet, almost too quiet. The plush carpet muffled his footsteps, making him feel like an intruder in a sacred, silent place. He found room 928 at the very end of the corridor. Taking a deep breath, he inserted the key. The lock turned with a loud, grating click that echoed down the empty hall. He pushed the door open, stepping into a room that was a perfect time capsule. Antique furniture, velvet curtains, and a grand, four-poster bed dominated the space. But what truly caught his eye was the mirror. A huge vintage piece in a gilded frame, it hung on the wall opposite the bed, reflecting the entire room in its slightly distorted, silvered surface. As he set his bags down, a soft, almost inaudible whisper seemed to snake through the air, like the tail end of a forgotten conversation. Alex dismissed it as the wind, the old building settling. He was here for a story, after all. Little did he know, he was about to become one. Alex spent the first few hours filming, documenting every detail of the room for his vlog. He spoke to his camera with his usual enthusiasm, describing the vintage decor, the eerie quiet, the strange feeling that he wasn't quite alone. As night deepened, he settled in, editing the day's footage. The city lights twinkled outside his window, a world away from the suffocating stillness of room 928. He glanced at the clock on his laptop. 2:16 a.m. He stretched, feeling a sudden chill crawl up his spine despite the room's stuffy air. He was about to shut his laptop when it happened. The lamp on the bedside table flickered once, twice, then steadied. A power surge, he thought. He stood up and walked towards the bathroom, catching his reflection in the large, ornate mirror. He stopped, his heart giving a sudden, hard jolt. For a split second, just over his shoulder, he saw it. The silhouette of a person standing behind him. A woman, it seemed, her form hazy and indistinct in the dim light. His blood ran cold. He whipped around, his eyes darting into every corner of the silent room. Nothing. He was completely alone. His heart hammered against his ribs. It must have been a trick of the light, a figment of his tired imagination. He was letting the hotel's reputation get to him. He took a deep, shaky breath and turned back to the mirror, his own wide, fearful eyes staring back at him. The room was empty. But then, as he stood there, frozen, a sound reached his ears, so faint he almost missed it. A soft, lilting laugh like a distant memory, echoing from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was the sound of a woman's laughter, tinged with a deep, unsettling sadness. It hung in the air for a moment, then faded into the oppressive silence, leaving Alex trembling in the dark. The laughter was gone, but the fear remained, a cold, heavy presence in the room. Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Sleep was now impossible. He sat on the edge of the bed, every nerve on high alert, his camera recording on the nightstand, its small red light a lonely beacon in the gloom. He tried to rationalize, to convince himself it was his mind playing tricks. But then a new sound began. A slow, deliberate creak from the hallway outside his door. Footsteps, soft at first, then growing steadily louder, more defined. Someone was walking down the hall, directly towards his room. He held his breath, straining to listen. The footsteps were slow, measured, the sound of leather shoes on old wooden floorboards, even though he knew the hall was carpeted. They stopped right outside his door. Alex's heart pounded a frantic rhythm against his chest, a drumbeat of pure terror. He stared at the door, expecting a knock, a voice, anything. But there was only silence. A thick, suffocating silence that was somehow worse than the sound. As his eyes remained fixed on the door, he saw something that made the air freeze in his lungs. Underneath the door, a shadow crept across the thin sliver of light from the hallway. It moved slowly, a dark, elongated shape that didn't match the form of a person. It lingered for a moment, a pool of blackness, before retreating back the way it came. Just as the shadow vanished, a plume of white vapor, like a frosty breath on a winter's day, materialized in the air right in front of him. The room wasn't cold, but he felt an icy chill seep into his bones. The heartbeat he heard was no longer just his own. It was a deep, slow thudding that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the room, growing louder and louder and louder until it was all he could hear. Paralyzed by fear, Alex remained on the bed, his gaze now fixed on the source of his initial terror, the vintage mirror. The rhythmic, deep heartbeat sound finally began to fade, replaced once again by that unnerving silence. He felt a desperate urge to run, to fling the door open and sprint down the hallway, away from this room. But he was frozen, a prisoner of his own fear. As he stared at the mirror, its surface began to change. A fine mist, a strange, ethereal fog, started to bloom across the glass, starting from the edges and creeping inward. It wasn't condensation. The air in the room was dry and still. It was something else, something unnatural. The fog swirled and thickened until the entire surface was opaque, a milky white canvas. Alex watched, mesmerized and horrified, as a single dark line began to etch itself into the mist. It was like an invisible finger was drawing on the glass from the other side. More lines appeared, slowly, deliberately, connecting and curving to form letters. His blood turned to ice as he read the message taking shape in the fog. 2 words, written in a looping, elegant script. "Stay with me." He scrambled backward on the bed, his breath catching in his throat. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers clumsy with panic, trying to turn on the flashlight. But before he could, the room was plunged into absolute darkness. The bedside lamp, the glow from his laptop, the faint light from the city outside, everything went out at once. Total, complete blackness. And in that disorienting void, a final, deafening sound shattered the silence. The heavy wooden door to the room slammed shut with a violent, echoing crash that seemed to shake the entire hotel to its foundations. The next morning, the hotel staff noticed room 928's key was never returned. After several unanswered calls, security was sent to investigate. They found the room empty. The bed was rumpled. A laptop left open on the desk, a camera on the nightstand. But of the vlogger, Alex, there was no sign. His bags were still there, his wallet and phone on the dresser. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. A police investigation turned up nothing. He was just gone. The hotel, eager to avoid a scandal, quietly filed a missing persons report and tried to forget the incident. But the camera on the nightstand held one last chilling piece of the puzzle. The security team reviewed the footage. Most of it was just hours of a dark, empty room. But in the final minutes of the recording, something changed. The footage flickered, distorting like old security tape. For a brief moment, the camera's view shifted, pointing directly at the ornate mirror on the wall. The room it reflected was empty, just as they had found it. But standing within the reflection, captured only in the glass, was Alex. He was standing perfectly still, facing the camera, a wide, serene smile on his face. The smile wasn't his. It was vacant, emotionless, a chillingly empty expression. The footage glitched one last time, cutting to static and then to black. The sun rises over Los Angeles, casting a golden glow over the city. From the outside, the Blackwood Hotel looks just as it always has, grand, historic, and silent. Some guests check in, but they never check out. Would you stay here for one night?